I have spent years with the camera in my face when the Raiders make a pick, embarrassed that they picked somebody that nobody's ever heard of or didn't belong there. I refuse to, after spending years doing that, apologize for a single second about clearly the best player available being drafted by my favorite football team. Brock Bowers, I don't care about need right now. The Raiders are not competing with the Chiefs today. The Raiders are trying to figure out how to compete to get towards the playoffs while also building a roster. And I think you got a real identity of who Vegas is right now. Like Tom Telesco went into this draft and said, we are going to build the roster with best player available. Brock Bowers in this offense with Michael Mayer at tight end, Michael Mayer at tight end, is going to give you a ton of opportunity with 2 tight end sets. Jacoby Myers is going to be there for a minute. We'll see what it all means for Devontae long-term. I don't care. If you can't get to the quarterback that you want, give the quarterbacks you have better weapons. I thought that was beautifully done. Jackson Powers Johnson in the second round never should have been available in my mind. That is a great value pick. I think in the third round, Glaze out of Maryland might be a bit of a question mark, but Richardson, a corner, Eichenberg, the linebacker, these are all guys that made a lot of sense. And even in the 7th round, MJ Devonshire is somebody that I never thought would still be there. I thought in my exercise that he'd be a 5th round pick corner, right? So I just look at this across the board and there was a true identity. I give the draft a B overall because it's hard to be more praiseworthy than the Chargers and the Chiefs, who I thought absolutely nailed it. But man, other than the Delmar Glaze kid out of Maryland, that I think there are some real question marks about where that draft position was, I think Tom Telesco sat here and said, look, screw the board, screw what fans are going to yell, screw what anybody thinks. We are going to follow what we think the best player available is. And we're not going to overdraft for need. We're going to be patient. It was a work of art to me. And I have more confidence in the future of the Raiders right now than I've had in years because I felt like finally there was a competent GM making picks.
I think that's a great assessment, actually. I gave the Raiders a B because of, look, you can't give them an A because they didn't figure out the quarterback situation. That still is out there. It's still part of this grade. But I think once, like you said, once a quarterback's not there, you don't have this philosophy of, oh, we can't draft Brock Bowers because we don't have a quarterback yet. I hate when I hear that. No, you want your quarterback, whoever that quarterback of the future is in 2025, whether it's Shedeur Sanders or whoever it's going to be, he's going to step in and say, wow, I got Brock Bowers to throw to. I have Jackson Powers Johnson in front of me blocking for me. I thought that it was really, really smart for them to make these picks. Obviously, I've talked about Brock Bowers a lot. He's the best college tight end I've ever seen. I think an A-plus prospect at the position. Yeah, you got Michael Mayer, but whatever, you figure it out. 2 tight end sets, you could make that work. I've seen teams do that before. And it just doesn't matter. That wasn't even the regime. This regime didn't pick him. So you don't pass on a really, really, really good tight end prospect just because you got somebody who the other regime picked. No, you just figure it out later. I like the Raiders just drafting best player available here. I think that Powers Johnson, I thought was a really excellent pick. I thought he was a first round talent that slipped. Glaze could help them down the road. I thought this was a really good, solid draft by the Raiders. They'll figure out the quarterback situation down the road, but they didn't press. They didn't draft Spencer Rattler in the 3rd round or whatever it's going to be. They said, okay, well, this is what we got to do right now. And I applaud them for that and not stressing out, not making any bad picks just because of need. I give the Raiders a B. I thought they did the job they could do considering that all 6 quarterbacks went in the first 12 picks.
Yeah, and not for nothing here, but like Aiden O'Connell is going to get another year's opportunity. I don't think he's the long-term answer, but let's see. And, Gardner Minshew got paid enough for them to believe that he can be a bridge gap starter. And I would say, go back and watch the Colts last year. It took some offensive creativity, but Gardner Minshew had the Colts where they were throughout the course of the year, right? Like the Colts were far ahead of schedule. So now, if I'm looking to your point, whatever the quarterback position looks like for the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years as they try and address it. For all we know, we're going to get to next offseason and Mark Davis is going to give Dak Prescott $60 million. Who knows? But what we know right now is that whatever quarterback comes in has so many weapons in front of him. And at some point, it's like you got to figure out how to just continue to make your entire roster better. San Francisco did this for years where they said, you know what? The quarterback we want isn't there. We're going to just keep building the best roster available. And then when they took a chance on quarterback and got it wrong, it didn't set them back because their entire roster was better. Best player available is the best way to build your team. And I think we just become so obsessed as a society with the quarterback will fix everything. Well, maybe, but if the quarterback that you're looking at isn't even close to available for you, then you got to go best player available. And You also can't just turn around and trade 18 years of draft picks to go get a guy and leave him on an island. Some of these quarterbacks are not going to work out because their teams weren't built the right way around them. We just have to remember that context.
And I think one more thing on the Raiders is they're not the Broncos. As you talked about, the Broncos could not sell their fans on going into a season with Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson. Like that, no, you need a quarterback somehow, some way. The Raiders aren't in that position. It's fully reasonable to give O'Connell another shot. It's perfectly fine if Minshew's your guy for a year. This was not a desperate situation where they had absolutely possibly nothing at quarterback. Do I love the Raiders quarterback room? No, of course I don't. But to your point, they didn't need to get crazy. They didn't need to just draft a quarterback just to have a quarterback. They're fine. They can patch it together for a year. And again, they'll come into the draft next year or free agency next year, as you talked about with Mark Davis and Dak Prescott or whatever it's going to be. You got to figure out the plan later. Quarterback. You didn't really need to stress out over it here.